When you're at the edge, there's a sense of possibility and a rush of excitement. There's a compulsion to go further and push beyond. At the edge, we discover, find solutions, know our strengths as individuals, and understand the power of working with others. We feel the urgency to make an impact that's vital to people, places, and the planet. The edge is a mindset and an advantage. It's a physical place too, and ours is on a rugged coastline, on the tip of an island, within a circle, beside a magnificent continent, look of our partnerships, and within our community, rich with diverse perspectives. At the edge, students get hands-on and researchers get close up. Dynamic, research-inspired teaching and learning fuels personal growth and career success. Learning is personalized, and our campus just the right size, big enough to make a difference and small enough to care. Exciting things happen at the edge. It's where we lead and inspire change. It propels us to what's next. Our edge is ever evolving and far-reaching, and it's here with us in every place, in every moment. When you get to the edge, you know it. And when you get to know the University of Victoria, you'll feel it. The edge is here.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another Facebook Live session. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I'm meeting the students in the Faculty of Engineering. We're in a pretty cool spot today. This is the UVic Formula Motor Sports Shop, which hosts our Formula cars we'll talk about later on as well. But I want you to meet the panel today. We've got some awesome students with tons of experience, so let's get to know everyone we're going to be meeting over the next hour here.
Hi everybody, my name is Lois. I'm from Victoria, BC, and I'm a fourth year civil engineering student.
Hey everyone, I'm Austin. I'm from Victoria, BC, and I'm a third year biomedical engineering student.
Hi everyone, my name is Tai Lin, and I'm in my fourth year of electrical engineering, and I'm from Mill Bay, BC.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I'm a fifth year computer science student who's also doing a minor in French, and I'm also from Victoria, BC.
Hi, my name is Brayden. I'm a third year software engineering student, and I'm from Port Alberni, BC.
Hi everybody, my name is Eldon. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student, and I'm from Salt Spring Island, BC.
Right on. Thanks, folks. Good to meet you. We're going to get to know a lot about you over the next hour or so. All you folks watching at home, please type your answers away because we'll be answering them in real time, which is pretty cool. So first and foremost, I want to get to know why did you folks choose UVic as your spot to be for engineering? So I'm going to go around the table for this one because you're so unique in your individualism. So let's go with Lois first. Why UVic?
So being here since I was 2 in BC, I just thought that going to UVic was a great choice because it's close to home and also the campus just is beautiful. And to me, for my first degree, I think I'd like going to somewhere close to home and with the smaller class size so I can feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I liked UVic and I chose it because I love the campus. I really liked the facilities and I liked reading up on the professors that we had and the work that they were doing at the university.
So I chose UVic partly because of the co-op program. So for engineering, they have optional co-ops, and I looked across all of the universities in Canada, and UVic was one of the top ones with co-op programs. So that's one of the reasons I chose UVic. And then again, the campus is beautiful.
Bit of a broken record here, but definitely the campus is beautiful, and the co-op program in computer science isn't mandatory, but a really great opportunity to learn hands-on skills. Also, in computer science, we have a really broad range of research areas, so that was neat.
I chose UVic. I had the opportunity to do a tour when I was in high school, and going into engineering buildings and seeing all the labs set up and all the really awesome equipment that I knew I'd get to use as a student got me really excited, and that's was one of the big selling points for UVic. The facilities and the campus is just, again, beautiful.
I chose UVic initially because It was close to home. I just lived on Salt Spring, so it was just a few minutes north of here, basically. So it was kind of a natural selection for me because I worked a little bit before I went to engineering, and a couple of people from my previous employer actually went to UVic and they were graduate engineering students. So I heard a lot about the program, and yeah, no, it was a pretty natural progression for me, and the campus is absolutely beautiful, like I said before. Yeah, there's just like so many awesome career opportunities in Victoria, so that's mainly why I chose it. So.
Right on, thanks folks. So I'm getting kind of a hint that the campus is beautiful. So it sounds like we're in a really, really great spot. And also I heard some cool things about research and professors and co-op. Now speaking of co-op, from my understanding, it's mandatory for the engineering students. And I know a few of you have done some pretty cool co-ops. Lois, I'm gonna go to you first because you got to go to Hong Kong for your first co-op. So tell me about that. How did it go? How was it? How was going to a completely different city and learning and doing what you did there?
So I have a lot of family in Hong Kong, so I thought going to Hong Kong for one of my first co-ops was a great opportunity to just, get to see my family as well, try working a job somewhere completely different. And it was really cool because I got to get immersed in structural engineering, which was what my first co-op was. And I got to try really cool things and then get to really put what I learned in the classroom into work. And so, yeah, it was really cool. And then I also got to kind of sightsee at the same time. It's really fun and a really great opportunity.
Thank you. And for viewers at home, I did mention mandatory co-ops. And so for these students here, they get to go and work as a part of their degree. So you do some time in the classroom, and then you get to go out in the world and develop what you learned in the classroom in the actual world. And now, Eldon, you're a little bit, it's a little bit odd because you didn't get to learn how to live on a boat, and I want you to tell everybody out there how was your co-op living on a boat, and I'm gonna be really crude here, but you built an underwater robot, so please tell us about this.
Yeah, I've did 2 co-ops with this company. It's called the Schmidt Ocean Institute. My first co-op was in San Francisco, and we built an underwater robot for basically deep sea ocean research. So not Marianas Trench sort of depth, but pretty deep. So that was really interesting. I got to engineer and do a lot of machining on this underwater robot and basically build it from the ground up. So I was involved pretty heavily in the engineering of it and the initial testing. And then I went back this summer, which was about 2 years later, and did another co-op with the company. And we went on it was about a 300-foot research vessel for about 2 months straight, doing ocean research off the coast of Oregon. So that was a pretty interesting experience, living in fairly close quarters on the boat and working fairly extensive shifts, like maybe 14, 16 hours a day. But it was amazing research. We did really incredible research around hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean, which are kind of like miniature volcanoes. And they're doing this research because they want to study how life forms around these volcanoes, so that they can go and take that information, basically how the details of how life forms and also the technology that we use to study it, hopefully onto other planets with oceans, like the moons of Jupiter and stuff. So it was really interesting seeing how far the research could span, and being like involved with it and driving the robot and launching and recovering it. It was just an incredible experience. So unlike any other, it was awesome.
That's insane. I don't think I've heard any other student talk about how their projects are going interstellar. So that's crazy. That's awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Now I know you're all in different programs, so I want to go around the table again and just, if you can tell me your program again, just for the viewers at home, and why you think your program was the best fit for you and why it's the best here at UVic. All right, so we'll go with Lois first. All right.
So once again, I'm in civil engineering, and I guess in high school, I just really liked working with like buildings and playing with Lego, I guess. So it kind of led me on the path of going into engineering and doing a lot of math and physics. And so when I first wanted to pick what kind of engineering I wanted to do, I picked civil.
So I'm Austin, and I'm in biomedical engineering. So I always really enjoyed the idea of innovation and health and merging those two things together. So when I heard that UVic had biomedical engineering, it was a chance to combine that I like to play with devices and that I liked mechanical systems, but also applying that to the health industry.
So I'm in electrical engineering, and I think the cool thing about electrical is it's a kind of a crossover. You get to do a little bit of programming, and also I'm really interested in working with power systems and doing green power such as wind or solar. So electrical engineering was kind of my top choice, just so that I could get into those industries and work on those really cool power and energy projects. And also I really enjoy doing math and physics and working with projects and innovation.
Thanks.
I think when people ask me why I do computer science and love it so much, I usually tell them it's because I get to solve puzzles all day, which is interesting because I learned how to code, sure, but I also learned how to think. And the neat thing about computer science is it's so cross-disciplinary. I can apply the skills that I'm learning everywhere. There's code in biology, there's code in languages, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and with software engineering, I would say it's quite similar. I also love solving puzzles, and that's definitely what led me into software engineering. I think it's really cool too if you're really like technology or Internet of Things or self-driving vehicles. There's tons of careers in that related to software and computer science. And again, for like vehicles, obviously there's mechanical, electrical, it kind of touches all engineering disciplines, but yeah, if you really like technology and that kind of side of things, software engineering or computer science is a really good fit.
I chose mechanical engineering because I really honestly just like getting my hands dirty and building things, and just having really practical educational experience, just being able to bolt something together, test it, do stress testing, just basically building something in a really fairly short period of time, and having it work and do some kind of physical function is just really satisfying. So that's it's definitely, it caters to mechanical engineering. There's so many ways you could go in mechanical engineering. You could go into more theory, or you can go into very much practical studies. So it was looking at it initially, it was kind of, for me, it left me the most options. I could go into more of like a mechatronics, like kind of electrical side of mechanical engineering, or I could go to a very like physical nuts and bolts sort of thing. So that's why I chose it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, folks. So I get a lot of a sense of passion from what you're studying, which is really cool. And it's not seen too often because you all get to kind of defer into your own little spots. But I want us to flip back to what it was like in first year. So you get to eventually pick where you want to go. But first year, from my understanding, is kind of more broad. So I'm going to go over here to Thailand. And can you tell me a little bit about what it was like in first year?
Sure. Okay. So when I started my first year, I lived on res for a little bit, and then I also lived off campus as well. So I think first year was a really new experience. I didn't really know anyone on campus. And going into engineering, you're in a lot of classes with the same people. So it was nice because I got to make friends really quickly, both with people in my residence buildings and in my classes. And you're kind of with those people through most of your classes in first year if you're studying engineering. So you get to kind of make friends and create study groups, which helps you do better in your classes as well.
Thank you. And so first year classes seem larger than the rest, but I'm going to flip over to Annie here as well, because you do have labs in your first years as well. And from my understanding, you're a lab TA. So can you tell us a little bit about what a lab TA is and the experiences you've had in your first year labs?
Yeah, so first year lectures, especially in computer science, is going to be a lot of theory, which is really useful and really important. But labs is where you get to really try your skills, test everything out, and produce something solid and neat to play with. the cool thing about labs is while your lectures may be upwards of 100 people, labs are going to be 30 max, which is you really get hands-on and you get attention from a TA. So a TA is a teaching assistant, and they're someone who can be an undergraduate student. Sometimes they're graduate students, but they're here to help you. And personally, there's nothing cooler than seeing a student have that kind of aha moment where they did that. They made that thing work, and being able to help them with that is priceless.
Awesome, thank you. So we got a question from Josh. So Josh, hey, thanks for asking. And Josh has a question for Austin. So Austin, what sort of work have you had in your co-op experience with your biomedical engineering? He also wants to know what you're planning to do with your degree after graduation. And lastly, wants to know, did you get paid for your co-ops?
I'll start off with money. I did get paid. So I guess I can talk about my last co-op. So what I was doing was an area of research called biomechanics. So there's a lot of new technology that's come out nowadays where you can pretty much simulate what would happen to someone in real life. So what you're looking at is you're taking medical imaging data for like MRIs or CTs or X-ray scans, and I can basically build a 3D human model of you, kind of like you'd see in a video game with an avatar or something like that. And then I could put you through, let's say you have shoulder injuries, is what I was looking at. I was looking at, depending on which muscles are injured, like what it would hinder you from doing. So putting you through simulations like brushing your teeth, or lifting a cup of coffee, and trying to help look at and see what surgeries or like implants could help a person with that type of injury. And then also I just got a co-op that's more focused towards medical devices. So hardcore looking into how engineers can be part of a hospital scenario with either surgery or just really blending health and engineering. And then what else did he ask?
That's good.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Awesome, thank you. And so just leading up into your co-op experiences, that kind of blended into a club here on campus that you're a part of now as well. So can you tell me how you think that your club involvement has kind of filtered in and worked with your co-op placements and helped your overall experience in the biomedical program?
So although labs are a really good way to get hands-on experience, a lot of the time clubs can really focus in on areas that you've had a passion that maybe you haven't had a chance to take yet in school. So one of the clubs that I got involved with early was the Victoria Hand Project. So that's basically a club that designs and makes really low-cost prosthetic equipment for people in third world countries. So basically, as a new student coming in, you learn the basics of manufacturing parts, using 3D printing, using very simple machine tools or designing stuff like that. And you really get to see real life patients who are going to use your materials and use the things that you made. So that was a really cool experience.
Awesome, thank you. And so I've got a question again for everybody now here. And Lois, you mentioned that building Legos kind of led into your civil engineering. But I'm going to go on a whim here and say that in your first year, there was some kind of uncertainty as to which program you wanted to declare into. And so I want to go around the table and just kind of figure out, after your first year, how did you know you were going to end up in your individual programs?
That's a really good question. I guess for me personally, I didn't do first year in 1 year. It took me about 2 runs pretty much to complete first year. So it gave me quite a bit of extra time to think about it. And like I said before, it was mechanical engineering kind of spoke to me because I was just kind of a practical mind. Like I just like to build things. The engineering clubs were really fascinating to me. They really piqued my interest, and I got involved with them really early in first year. So that really got my really kind of escalated my passion for engineering. And it took me a while. I didn't have that passion when I entered into engineering. I didn't even know if it was for me. But by the time that I was done first year, I was through the clubs, I developed that passion for basically mechanical engineering, and I kind of took it was a no-brainer for me, really. So,
in my first year, I originally wanted to do electrical engineering, and it wasn't until the very end of the year that I decided last minute that I wanted to do software engineering. What led me to that was in the first semester, you take a programming course, and I kind of liked it, and so I was like, oh, maybe this is for me. And then in the second semester, you do a design project. For my design project in my year, we did a robot, and I really enjoyed writing the code for the robot, so I decided I wanted to take on software engineering, and I'm extremely happy with my choice. And yeah, that's how I decided.
I actually started as a math major when I started at university. I hadn't had any exposure to computer science before starting at UVic, so I had no idea that was really an option in a way. As a math major, they had you take a couple introductory computer science courses, and I found that those are the courses where I was curious about the questions outside of the bounds of the course and played with the technology after I was done my assignment. So that really indicated to me that I wanted to pursue this and continue.
So for me, I think with my interest in doing energy systems, when I first looked at that, I was like, definitely that'll be electrical. But once you start doing engineering, you kind of realize that nothing is one discipline. It's all really cross-disciplinary. So an electrical system is definitely going to need programming, and it's going to have a large mechanical component most of the time as well. So that was the point where I was kind of like, oh, like, do I still want to do electrical? But I realized I really liked my programming classes, and I really liked doing some of the kind of electrical systems. I also did a robot project, but I ended up building the circuit. So I think kind of we fit kind of naturally into our roles. You don't end up choosing, or at least in my case, I didn't end up choosing one so much as it chose me. So.
Yeah, I would say I changed my mind probably 3,000 times in the first year, because you go off on tangents. You'll take a course and you'll really like something, and maybe that's what you want to go into. But you should never be worried or be thinking that, oh, I gotta choose. Like, just let it come to you. And even if you want to switch, that's always an option. So what really drove me to go into biomedical was seeing the blend of the courses that you could take. So in some of the courses, I was learning how to wire circuits. In some of the courses, I was learning how to do machine shop stuff or doing mechanical drawing. So I really liked the overall blend of what the program was.
Yeah, I would say for me, the choice was pretty easy because I knew what I wanted to go into, and that's civil. But for all the people who are undecided yet, I think that first year is a really great opportunity to kind of like dip into all the different kinds of engineering, and you can pretty much find your way and see what you like while you're in first year.
Right on, thank you. And I like how you described how it was comprehensive. So it's not that you're picking one, you're going to fall into one, which is what you were saying, because it kind of finds you, but you are still working a lot with each other, which I didn't realize. So the project you are involved in, I want to hear a little bit about that later on. And Braden, I did just have one more question from Austin here. He wants to know, what are you going to do after graduation?
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So after graduation, what I'm looking at right now is doing a master's of engineering. So basically at Johns Hopkins. So basically it's a biomedical research institute, and I want to do medical devices. So I want to work with clinicians and surgeons to make devices that will help them in surgical areas. So when they're actually in the operating room, building devices that could help them or improving upon the ones that they already have.
That sounds really cool. So we're going to get to a little bit more to you later on, because I do know that you are building a prosthetic hand. You're a part of that. So we're going to get a little bit into that in just a bit here. I think like hearing what you were saying, Braden, it's interesting to see where everybody else wants to go with their lives and what you want to do after school. So Lois, I'm going to go flip back to you right now. And so going from Legos to civil engineering, what's next? What's next?
I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can do with a civil engineering degree, because there's like, you can go into building design, or you can go into like road design, or even like water treatment. And there's like a bunch of different varieties of civil engineering. For me, I really like structural engineering. And so that's what I kind of want to venture off into and try and work with like consulting and kind of go in that direction. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm interested in power systems mainly, and I'm also interested in cars. So I'm on a hybrid car team, and I'm building the electrical systems for that right now. So my two pathways for the future are kind of blurry right now. I'm not sure whether I want to go into energy generation, where I'm working with solar panels, or developing those, or working on like wind power, or if I'm just working on the other end where making electric cars and working on that in that industry. I'm really not sure yet, but I feel like I still have at least 4 more months to decide.
So my plan so far is grad school and looking at different master's programs in computer science. My area of interest recently have become involved with digital humanities, so sort of the intersection of computer science and the humanities. So I've been looking at projects to do with natural language processing and machine learning, all applied to a linguistic sort of context, so something like machine translation.
Something that really interests me is smart home devices like Google Home and Amazon's Alexa. So I think I want to go into development of the Internet of Things and essentially get everything to talk to each other, and hopefully one day have a completely automated home.
I'm definitely mainly interested in two things. One is ocean research and robotics, and the other is motorsports. Which is a pretty so because I've done my co-ops in ocean research and robotics, that would be my main career path, and I'd be mostly interested in developing autonomous robots for doing ocean research, so like long-term deployment and like deep sea deployments of autonomous robots that collect data for scientific applications, and that hopefully can eventually be deployed maybe on other planets. So that's what I'm really passionate about, that, and that's hopefully the direction I'll go. And if not, might fall back into race cars. We'll see. I don't know.
Thank you. And so through the engineering program, it sounds like you're involved in a lot of separate projects. It sounds like you're doing a lot of cool things for yourself. But I want to hear about the research that some of you may be involved in here at UVic. Can you tell me what is undergrad research? And I know a couple of you are involved in JCura. So can you tell us what your JCura project is and what exactly is JCura? Who wants to go? Wants to field this? Yeah, perfect.
I can take a stab at it. So I'm actually doing JCura right now. So it's the Jamie Castles Research Award. So basically what you're doing is I partnered up with a prof whose name is Josh Giles. So what we're looking at in specific is kind of what I mentioned before with simulating people and with their muscles in like creating a 3D version of themselves. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a surgery that's had a lot of complications with it. So people are not being able to move their shoulders in certain ways when they've tore their rotator cuff. So what we're trying to look at is getting these patients and getting scans for them, and then trying to design or be able to tell surgeons like, oh, you should move the implant 1 millimeter to the right or 1 millimeter down, and then they'll have better motion of their arm. So it's really cool to see like the direct health application that you can have in someone's life by moving a piece of equipment like 1 millimeter to the right. So that's what we're working on. Yeah.
Nice, right on. I know there was somebody else involved in JCura here. Yeah, perfect, Lois.
So I'm working with Dr. Rishi Gupta and the Department of Civil Engineering, and what we're doing is we're doing non-destructive testing for one of the buildings on campus called the First People's House. And so what it is we're using devices to test the walls that are currently there to see how their lifespan is doing, and like what like how it's decaying or what can be improved in the future by doing tests on it that don't physically like damage it. So yeah.
Nice, cool. Anyone else here do some research that they want to talk about? We're okay on the JCura? No, we're good. Awesome. And just for you folks at home, I know it's interesting to hear all these guys talk about their projects, and they're trying to simplify the language, I think, because some of the stuff they talked about earlier, I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about. So thank you folks for helping our viewers understand. It's really nice. And I think welcomed by everybody watching at home. Cool. So speaking of research, we've got a question here, and they want to know, what do you think, in your opinion, the coolest research that's happening at UVic right now is in the Faculty of Engineering? I know, time to brag. So it's a big, everyone's like, oh my gosh, what?
I can try.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll plug Mohsen. So there's a tissue engineer on campus that's name is Mohsen Akbari, and what he's doing is he's created a smart Band-Aid. So it's basically you'll put it on a wound and it can actually update and give you live stats of what's happening and where you are in the recovery of that. Yeah.
What? That sounds amazing. That's really cool. So a smart Band-Aid. I'm gonna go on Women's Day. That comes with an app. Will it have an app? Yeah. Okay. All right. So you guys will developing the apps as well. So really cool. Anybody else want to talk about some cool research they're involved in? No? All right. Well, I know that you are involved in a lot of clubs on campus that really aid into your studies. And so, Anna, I know that you're in a club with Thailand, and I want you guys to talk a little bit about your club. And you do some outreach. So maybe I'll flip it to you, and then you can talk a little bit more about it later. But what's your club? What do you do? And how does it aid in your studies here at UVic?
All right, so yeah, I've been the president and a member of Women in Engineering and Computer Science since my second year at UVic. So we're a club that try to create a community for minorities in computer science and really support them within the department. We also do a lot of outreach in the community, so we bring in girls and just students from middle schools and high schools in the community to come and learn about computer science and engineering and how cool it is and get some hands-on experience before they even get to university. We also do some stuff for first years, so we'll try to help them out by running review sessions and really create a group that they feel comfortable with other students.
Yeah, so I'm also involved with that. I was the vice president for a few semesters. So right now we're actually doing some outreach with a group in Esquimalt, and also we do outreach with Girl Guide groups around Victoria. I find that it really helps me just because I get to share my passion a little bit with people in the community, especially with younger people who I kind of maybe see part of myself in. Like, I like the idea that some people would look up to me as a role model and think about maybe going into engineering and following a similar path as I did.
Nice, I like it. Inspirational, community-driven, which is really important here, and great concepts at UVic. We're going to get more into some of the stuff you're doing, including a concrete canoe. We're going to talk about how you change programming for incoming years. But before we get into any of that, we have a quick video here from Dr. Willerth. She is a professor here in the Faculty of Engineering, and essentially she is 3D printing human tissue. So take a look at this video.
Well, as we age and as you suffer traumatic injury, there's a need to regenerate the tissues and organs found in the body, and the fields of regenerative medicine and tissue engineering develop ways of replacing these diseased and damaged tissues. My name is Dr. Stephanie Willerth, and I'm an associate professor and Canada Research Chair in Biomedical Engineering here at the University of Victoria. My research group focuses on how to engineer tissue. All living things are made up of cells, which are a basic unit of life, and stem cells are a specialized version of cells that can become more than one type of cell. So as a tissue engineer, it's quite exciting because potentially if you have these stem cells that can become other cell types, you could engineer the different tissues found in your body. My research group focuses on different ways of engineering neural tissue. And so one of the ways we do that is by using these stem cells. And to get the stem cells to form neural tissue, we seed them onto different types of biomaterial scaffolds. We have some scaffold materials that are similar to Jell-O. We have some small microparticles. And we also have some novel pattern scaffolds that we can plate our stem cells out on, and they'll form patterns. And again, we're trying to replicate the same features that are found in your brain or spinal cord tissue. One of the things our group is focused on is using our expertise in biomaterials to 3D print neural tissue. So we have these bioinks, which we use to deliver cells in specific patterns, and we can form structures similar to that found in the brain and spinal cord, and then we can culture them in our incubators to form these functional neural tissue. One of the really exciting things about working in the area of neural tissue engineering is there are several ongoing clinical trials in this area. So for example, Asterias has been transplanting stem cell-derived cell therapies into the injured spinal cord with promising results. Also in Japan, they've been transplanting retinal cells that have been derived from stem cells into patients as well. So I think hopefully we'll start to see some successful results in some of these cell therapies being adopted more widely as standard of care. I also think we'll start to see more cell therapies going for some of these neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, which don't have cures currently, but could potentially be treated using cell therapies and regenerative medicine strategies.
Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. That video was a submission and a finalist this year in a project at UVic called the Research Reels. And essentially students can participate and submit projects. And if your video wins, you get some cash money. And we all know as students, it's not a bad thing. So always submit that. But check out more Research Reel projects online if you'd like. So earlier before the break, we were talking about some projects you were involved in, some research and some clubs. And Lois, I'm going to come to you first about this club, because you mentioned something, a concrete canoe. And for me, I think of concrete as sinking. So can you talk about how this works? All right.
So yeah, well, as the name tells, it really is, we do make a concrete full size out of a canoe full size out of concrete. And so, well, in the canoe, it's not your typical like rocks that you find on the ground. We do use a lighter type of rocks so that it definitely decreases the density and the weight of the boat itself so that it does float. And so the whole point of the club is that we build this canoe, and then every year there is a national competition called the Canadian National Concrete Canoe Competition. And so we try to build this canoe, and then next year's competition is in Montreal, so we'll ship the canoe there, and then we'll fly our teammates there, and we'll race and see how we do.
Right on, right on. Well, good luck. Hope you guys will bring home the gold. And I also want to flip over here to Eldon now. So everyone can see, of course, behind me there is a Formula car, and you're part of this Formula club here on campus. And from what I understand, we're doing pretty well. First in Canada, overall doing great out of 180 teams. So if you can tell us about how we're doing and what your involvement is in the project and how it relates into your degree.
Yeah, so I've been involved with Formula since my first year, basically, at UVic. Right now, I'm one of the team captains, so I've kind of progressed a little bit in the club and been more involved in it in the past couple of years. And a bit about the car in the competition. The competition is called Formula SAE, and we basically make a race car like you see in the back here every single year, built from scratch. So this one was built last spring, and we're building one right now, another one. So we build one every single year, and the club has been doing that since 2002. And then we take it to a competition in Michigan with 120 other teams from all around the world, from Germany, from Japan, from Australia. All these global teams come and compete at this competition. It's an amazing opportunity, to go to the competition, or to even be involved with the car, because there's so many leading edge technologies that are involved on a car this fast and this light. Our club also works with a lot of companies around North America and some with Europe, actually helping developing their products and their leading edge manufacturing technologies. To basically on a race car, because a race car is a very extreme environment. It has to be really, really light and really strong. So a lot of these companies, such as Mastercam or CRP USA, they're advanced 3D printing company. They really like to be involved with us because we really like to push the boundaries of their products and their manufacturing processes. So that's one of the funnest things for me in the club, is being able to work with these industry partners on some really, really cutting edge projects. And to be involved with that as an undergrad student is just such an incredible experience. It's absolutely done wonders. And it's interesting, the team experience, working with your peers on a project that has a very harsh deadline and a very small budget is really similar to any engineering project you'll be involved with in industry. I was really surprised going from Formula SAE into my job that this is exactly the same. It's even more disorganized in my job. So it's again, amazing experience, very cross-disciplinary, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. It's just amazing, yeah.
Thanks so much. So, as earlier mentioned, the car that you were a part of was first in Canada, and it was a top 10 design finalist out of 180 teams, which is really great. So, congratulations. 120. Sorry, I don't know where I'm getting these numbers from. So, 120. Thank you. And now, Braden, I'm going to go to you because I've never heard of a club on campus getting to change the curriculum for incoming students, and you're a part of something called SEND. Can you tell us about what it is and why you change curriculums as you go on?
Oh, yeah. So it's not actually a club, but it's a curriculum committee that for the software engineering program. And essentially I'm the student rep on the committee, and me and a bunch of profs and other faculty members meet once a month, and we discuss future changes to the program for new incoming students like yourselves. Right now, some of our focuses are opening up courses for quantum computing and more in-depth machine learning stuff, as the industry is kind of rapidly changing, and it's always a fight to keep up to date and stay relevant, and it's comforting. I found it comforting to know that there's always someone in the background working to make sure that the courses are teaching you the things you want to know and need to know in industry. So it's very exciting. If you ever get the opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. It's a great experience.
Thank you. It's cool to know. I think most students, we'll talk a little bit about professors later on. People think professors are in charge of the curriculums and building the courses, but it's you folks who are actually kind of generating the new concepts for the incoming freshmen, which is really neat and I think pretty original to the engineering faculty. So thank you. Now, Tyler, I'm going to come to you because you're involved in a different kind of car here on campus. Can you tell me about your involvement with the hybrid car and how that's kind of fit into your degree?
Sure. So I'm actually the electrical team lead currently on the hybrid team. And so we build kind of a similar style car. It's a Formula race car, but it is hybrid. So it has an internal combustion engine as well as an electric motor. So I'm working on the electrical systems. It's kind of the electrical system that we use. A lot of teams use lithium ion, which is what Tesla uses in their vehicles. And other hybrid vehicles, I'm thinking of examples like the Prius is one, but it's really not comparable. So yeah, I think like with my degree, getting to be on the electrical systems, I'm getting to assemble these lithium ion packs, which are high voltage, and they run our electric motor. So I'm getting to work with both the electric motor and the electric packs. And then I'm also doing a lot of low voltage electronics. So I'm building printed circuit boards, which is basically a board that you can populate and put all your parts on that can run like even little computers on them. I don't really know how to explain this. Okay. And that'll run like all the systems on the car. So it'll run our dash and our display, all of our information, which we're sending to external computers, making sure that the engine and the car and the motor is like going the speed that we want it to. So when we step on the pedal, we're getting the right amount of torques and everything. Yeah, so I think it's really cool. I get a lot of hands-on experience, and I'm doing a little bit of project management as well. So once you work your way up the team, you kind of start off just doing projects, learning a lot, and then once you get up high enough, you have a little bit of knowledge about everything in your system and other people's systems, enough to manage other people and help them with their projects and help them learn. So that's exciting as well.
Thank you, thank you. And again, I appreciate you simplifying the language. I know it's hard for all of you because you're learning all these cool concepts and you're like, how do I describe it? But if I can understand it, I'm sure everybody back home can as well, okay? And last but not least, I want to get into your project a little bit, Austin. And how did you find that building your prosthetic hands has, again, fit into your research? And the club you're involved in, how is that kind of fitting in with everything as well?
Yeah, of course. So like the first thing I think it did was clarify like what's on the market for prosthetics, because the Victoria Hand Project, what it did for me was I thought prosthetics were some fancy like arm thing that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that would like let you swing a golf club exactly like you want to do or do sports, but they took a totally different look at it. So what they were doing was trying to build the simplest prosthetic possible with the least amount of money possible to target the people that really need it and can't afford it in third world countries. So what they're looking at is creating an arm that's basically Like you can open and close the hand just by your own movement. So there's actually no electronics at all. So first off, what it taught me was like that not everything needs to be overly complicated, and some of the simple designs that they're doing can be so effective. And then what is actually needed, like across seas, and really getting in a broad look at what people in need actually want to use. And then for technical skills, just like what is a 3D printer? How do you use a 3D printer? Like how do you put parts together? Or like it's really nice getting amputees to try out some of the parts and stepping into their shoes and being like, oh, I hate this, or I like this, like change this. So the whole like iterative design process of doing it again and again to someone's needs was a really cool experience.
Thank you. And I'm getting like a lot of sense of the projects you're involved in aren't just for yourselves or for our community, which is really cool because a lot of the outreach you're doing, a lot of the projects you're doing are helping to improve our world. So thank you guys, because you're going to save the world. So you guys are doing great. So we talked a little bit about professors. And I know a lot of students out there are going to think of these professors as daunting, maybe a little scary. Think back to your first year. Did you go to office hours? How did it work? And so Lois, I want to come to you because you mentioned that you're doing some one-on-one research with the prof in your department. So how was it in your first year meeting and talking to profs versus now to getting to work with your prof one-on-one?
Well, I would definitely say for civil engineering, the class size definitely does narrow down once you step away from first year, as first year was probably like the bigger classes for us. But then once you get into like second or third year, you really get to know your profs and your profs really get to know you. And eventually you can even work with them and, you create a great friendship with them. And they're always there looking out for you and they're not scary at all, I promise. So yeah, I think, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Lois. And this kind of filters into a question asked by a viewer, Fahima, about what some of the challenges have been in first year. So, of course, meeting profs maybe been one of the challenges. But Tylin, can you maybe tell me about some of your challenges in your first year about going into the engineering faculty?
Sure. Okay. So one of my challenges in first year, I think, was a first year physics class that I took, which was very challenging. Everyone's nodding because they all know. And I just remember getting like a really low mark on the first midterm and going into the prof's office and literally like crying and being like, I could not take it. And he was like, don't worry, like so many people have cried in this office. And I was like, oh, phew. But I think the good part was that he kind of like went over what I could review and learn for the next test, and it ended up, I ended up passing and moving on to the next semester. So that was good. So that was one challenge, is just like you'll face courses that you're not used to or that aren't your forte. So if you're really good at math, you might not be good at some of the other engineering courses that you're taking, especially in first year. You're taking like a broad spectrum, chemistry, mathematics. I think we take a statics course, which is kind of our first look at structural engineering. And yeah, so some of those things for me were okay, and then some of them were really difficult. So kind of just throwing yourself into things you're not good at and always trying to do your best.
Awesome. Thank you. Always trying to do your best. So I've cried in profs' offices too. So I think it's normalized. Don't worry. You get through it. And so, Anne, I want to flip to you as well here. So you're doing computer science, but you're also doing French. So for you, what was your first year like? What were the challenges that you faced? And ultimately, why did you decide to pick up a minor? And I do want you to differentiate between the majors and minors for viewers out there.
Okay, so coming into first year, I think everyone can kind of have the shared experience of it being pretty different from high school, right? So your classes are a lot bigger, you're learning different material, but there are some positives. You get to control your schedule completely, which is pretty neat. You get to take and focus on the things that you're really interested in. I have never really managed to pick between doing computer science and the humanities. I always kind of like both. So I picked up a minor in French. So a major is what you focus on primarily. It's where you take most of your classes, but a minor is something you get to explore, and you're going to go through and take advanced classes in that area as well. So lots of people say computer science, isn't that pretty different from French? And sure, maybe on the surface, like I often say, it's kind of stretching a different group of muscles. But realistically, I saw some neat stuff I saw to define programming grammars come up in my linguistics courses. And I'm now working on a research project working with French theater data in a computer science context to sort of gain insight about French theater at La Comédie Française in the 15th and 16th century. So I've gotten to really blend the two.
That's super cool. So can you just tell me a little bit more about this research project you're doing? And is it funded through UVic, how you're involved with it, and how you think it's contributed to your overall degree?
Sure. So I'm doing some research under Dr. Sarah Harvey, who's in the French department, and she had been working on this project in its sort of first iteration. So this theater is the oldest theater in France. It has tons of really painstaking records. So they're really good records. And we've been able to take those records and put them into a bunch of relational databases. So tables with different sorts of information about who was playing what characters, what plays were played, what expenses they had, what sort of revenue they got. And we can use this and use databases and machine learning and analysis techniques that we use in computer science to gain insight about cultural and theatrical trends in really early France. So we're creating a interest for really ancient things with modern technology.
Unreal. So I like how, for me, like the understanding is engineering is very kind of hot and cold, but you're kind of testing limits in cultural theories. So that's really interesting to see, pushing the language barriers, which is awesome. Right on. And now, Braden, I have a question for you, and it's from our viewer, Fahima. She wants to know what the international population is like in the Faculty of Engineering. To your best of your ability, do you have friends who are from other areas of the world? And is the representation fair? What do you think, in your opinion, it looks like in the faculty?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a decent portion of international students. I've definitely met a lot of international students, and it's always fun meeting someone that's from somewhere that's totally different, very exciting. And sometimes you encounter people that don't speak English as their primary language, and it's always fun to help them and teach them the language, and kind of sometimes you get to pick up a little bit of their language too if you're really eager. It's a lot of fun. I'd say I don't really know like exact numbers or anything, but there's definitely a decent portion, and you get to meet a lot of people, and it's really exciting and really awesome.
Awesome, thank you. And so Fahima, just for yourself, of our entire population at UVic, 9% are international. So got almost 1/10 of our school is international, which is pretty cool. So thank you for your really nice answer about studying and learning with other people, which is great. And so Austin, Fahima does have another question for you here as well. And she wants to know the biggest challenge you faced in biomedical engineering, and also how easy is it to secure funds in research? So challenges and then money.
My biggest challenge. Well, no, I would say, the biggest challenge. I'd say the biggest challenge for me, like from a school perspective, was just kind of like learning where I wanted to take health. So like I guess the biggest thing that I had to do was in biomedical engineering, do you want to work in what we call wet labs? So do you want to work with, like that video you saw with Dr. Willerf, do you want to work with bioprinters? Do you want to work with pharmaceuticals like drugs, stuff like that? Or do you want to work more with devices? So electrical, mechanical, stuff like that. So differentiating and trying to pick kind of which road I wanted to go down, because I'm getting close to the end of my degree now, was probably my biggest challenge. And then securing funding, that's a tough one. Basically, it's not as hard as you would think, because the government they really like research and health, obviously, and they want to make people's lives better. So if you look hard enough, you'll definitely find it. But it's awesome because tons of profs on campus in biomed and all the other disciplines have plenty of experience with writing grants or things of that nature. So when I was first starting out, you can literally just go knock on a prof's door and say, how do I write a grant? I have no idea how to do this. And then they're really good at walking you through, like, these are the steps that you need to take. This is where you should look, stuff like that. So it's a learning process. So I would say that it's difficult, but not as hard as you would think. Yeah.
Thank you. And now we're going to flip a little bit back in time as well, back to first year. And for students out there, and I want you to be brutally honest, like don't sugarcoat any of this. What was the workload like? So tell me a little bit about how many classes you had to take, what the workload of each class, how many hours you spend outside of class working, were there study groups, was there help? So what was it like? So Tyler, maybe we'll go to you for this one.
Okay, I'll start off. So I had trouble with the workload at first because I took a year off between high school and university. So coming back to it was like, oh my gosh, I have to start studying again. But I found like I made study groups on campus, and we ended up probably studying almost every day in first year. We had so I think it was 6 classes the first semester, or was it 6.5 for engineering? It was something crazy. It seemed like a lot. So I think it was 6.5 courses. But we kind of managed to balance a little bit of, so a lot of studying, like I said, probably every day. But also we would go out in Victoria to the restaurants and everything and try out a few new places. So there wasn't necessarily not time for anything. I did also join intramurals. So I was playing intramural soccer. Intramurals is just a way on campus of doing sports. So you can do soccer. I think I played hockey as well in the first semester. So it's not like you have all of your time dedicated to studying, but it is a large portion.
Nice, thank you. And we're going to flip to Lois. In your experience, what was the course load like? How did you survive first year?
It was definitely a big change going from high school to university for me, in my opinion. I definitely thought that it was a very heavy course load in the beginning. We were definitely on campus for most of the day for all 5 days of the week, weekdays. But for me, I think the way I did to ease off my workload was to kind of split my courses into 3 semesters instead of the normal 2 that you do from September to December and then January to April. So what I did is I took some of the courses from those first 2 semesters and kind of put them into summer, and I took some summer courses to kind of like spread out the course load and kind of ease into university a bit more, and it really helped me a lot.
Awesome. I like those answers. So definitely dipping into Victoria, the city, the culture, and then taking your time. Like there's no rush to finish school. So kind of spreading that course load out. Anybody else have tips and recommendations for first year?
Yeah, I would say first year can definitely be very overwhelming. There is a lot more students than high school. Like I think I had a class in first year that maybe had 350 students. So it's like pretty overwhelming, and it feels like it's a bit of a struggle to get help. But if you're ever struggling in a class, especially math, there's like math help, math and stats help center. For other classes like physics, we talked about, that's a challenging one. And there's a few other very challenging courses. And my biggest recommendation is to make friends, try to start a study group, and go and see your prof in their office hours. It is like highly recommended to do that. Profs are usually very nice and are always trying to help you. In the end, the profs want you to learn, and they want to help you in whatever way they can. So definitely take advantage of that.
Right on, some great tips. So thank you for sharing your words of wisdom for incoming freshmen. We're going to go a little bit into residence now and what it's like living on campus, because most students may not be from the Victoria area. So has anybody here lived in residence? And if so, can you describe what the experience was like? Brayden?
Yeah, so I lived in residence in first year. The first semester I had a roommate, and that was actually a lot of fun. In residence, you meet a lot of people because obviously you live in very tight quarters, and you have like shared facilities like washrooms and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun. It's a really great experience. Again, yeah, you meet a lot of people, make a lot of friends, and making friends and doing things that aren't studying kind of help keep you grounded and keep you sane while school's going crazy, because it can definitely be very stressful, but just remember to take a break and stuff like that. But yeah, first year residence, I think the experience was really great. There's always lots of activities to do around campus, especially, and there's things specifically for students in residence, which is always really fun. Something else that's really great about residence is you get to meet a lot of people that are in different faculties because, well, for me anyways, I didn't go into like a faculty specific residence. So all my neighbors were doing completely different things, and it's always cool to see what other people are doing around campus and kind of bursting out of the engineering bubble per se. So I'd say you get to meet a lot of people, and it's great.
Awesome, thank you. And for viewers at home, UVic has what's called a living learning community for engineering. And so essentially, students in engineering can apply to live in this community. And Brayden mentioned he wasn't decided in his first year, so you had a ton of other people from different faculties. But you can live in a residence building with all engineering students. And as students here have mentioned, the study groups you make in your first year, I think, were vital. And so what better way to make those study groups than in an engineering living learn community? We also have what's called the first year guarantee. So students coming directly from high school into residences here at UVic are guaranteed a placement in our housing, which is pretty unreal to have. So thank you for sharing your experience. And as a previous resident student as well, I think it was the best decision I made before coming to Victoria, other than, of course, my degree. So there it is, right on. So we are going to be wrapping things up here. And before we wrap and before we go, I just want you to all to describe UVic in a couple words, starting off with the statement, my UVic life is. All right. Okay, Eldon, we're going to start with you. Couple of words.
All right. This is tough. I'd say my UVic life is, it's passionate, it's interesting, it's hard work, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I'm in no rush to get out of here.
Yeah, I'd say my UVic experience is very fun and exciting. Yeah.
I guess my UVic life is being able to shape a program to fit my interests exactly, and also find an outlet to be able to share what I've learned with other people.
I'm going to go kind of short and sweet here and say my UVic life is community and innovation.
I'm going to say my UVic life is homely, and it pushes me to strive in areas that sometimes I wouldn't normally pursue, but explore things and step outside my comfort zone.
I would say my UVic life is learning what I love and paving a way to a great future.
Nice, not rehearsed at all. That was on the spot. That was amazing. So thank you so much for being my wonderful panel today. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody out there, I'm sure they did learn quite a bit. I love the design, the technology, the innovation, the community, and the outreach that's put into your program. I think it really sets you apart from other programs because you're literally going to be changing the world that we're living in once you graduate. And so good luck to all of you. For all you folks out there, if you have questions, keep asking them. We'll be answering questions for up to 48 hours. And if you have anything past that, go ahead and comment in the My First Year at UVic Life Facebook page, and other students as well as staff will help you out if they can figure out an answer for you, okay? But thank you once again. Thank you to all of you out there, and good luck with your applications. We'll see you at UVic in the near future. Bye.